Because so this is just surprising to me because I wasn't expecting this, but I am going to be prepared to bring forth something encouraging this morning for all of us. I love the strength and the power of women coming together and being positive and loving on one another and having the ability to just be in a space where we can be free, where we can be ourselves and where we can be uplifted. And so I thank my friend Ina who actually asked me to join into this space. And ever since the day she sent me the information, I've been here. I think I've only missed one day since then. And so I am so grateful to have added this into my routine 3 days a week. And I have to get up very early in the morning because my daughter has to be at her bus early in the morning. But she gets dropped off in enough time for me to be here to have my spirit lifted. And so I am just grateful. And so when Hannah had mentioned on one of the calls last week, just haphazardly, like, hey, can you just be ready one day next week? I was like, well, all right, Jesus, I'm going to write some notes down right now so I can just be prepared because I don't know and I don't know what day, but amen. But today is the day. And I was just making a smoothie a few minutes ago and then she said my name and I was like, oh, well, I guess it's today. So amen and bless God. So bear with me as I pull up my notes here. Um, and so this morning, what I would actually like to talk about um, is a charge for us as women to join the self-love club. And so, what does self-love look like? It looks like any activity that we do consistently to put ourselves in the best position to be whole and to harness the most amount of joy and peace possible. Is really taking a deep dive into how we regularly care for not just ourselves, not just, the commercial way of people talking about self-care, but really it's about how we regularly care for our souls. It means making space for you and putting you on your own agenda. Often, as women, we put ourselves to the side for our children, our spouses, our jobs, our parents, all these other hats that we wear in our lives. But self love is really about prioritizing ourselves and making sure that we put ourselves on our own agenda. So what specifically does self-love look like? It looks like being able to receive a compliment from somebody else without condemning yourself. It looks like when your body and your mind is weary, taking the rest that you need without feeling guilty for that. Self-love looks like saying no without an explanation sometimes, just because you're prioritizing your needs. It looks like setting boundaries and not allowing people to take advantage of our kindness. It looks like believing what God says about us instead of the lies that the enemy chooses to place in our heads sometimes. And so once again, I'm reminding us on this morning to take the charge to join the self-love club. Some of the symptoms of us not really loving ourselves enough, which I know is a hard thing to face, is that sometimes we're just too critical of ourselves and we live in a cycle of condemnation, self-condemnation. We fear vulnerability. We make everyone but ourselves a priority. And we avoid caring for our souls because we make the excuse that oh, I have to take care of these kids. I have to take care of this. I have to do this. I have to do that. Because oftentimes we don't even want to face the fact that we ourselves are putting so much into everybody else and everything else that we have on our plates that we are not loving ourselves. We step out of the door, we look good, we got our red lipstick and our pumps on and all these different things. And so nobody would even believe that we are emptying our cups, but we're not filling up our own. And the first place to start with that is by loving ourselves. And so some of the ways I believe that we can return to a place of right standing with ourselves and loving ourselves more is to, one, identify our triggers and our trauma. I know we had talked about trauma earlier this week, and I think that it's a place that we avoid a lot because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to admit our pain. But loving yourself means I them head on. Another way that we return to a place of right standing within ourselves is to know and project our worth at all times. And even when we fall off the wagon and we realize that we're not projecting our worth, that we quickly get back on. And sometimes that looks like accepting things that we know are beneath who God has called us to be. And so we need to project our worth. The other way is to let nothing and no one dim your light or convince you that you are lesser. Sometimes we end up in relationships where we try to make people feel comfortable by dimming our lights. And I'm just going to declare today that we're going to unsubscribe from that kind of behavior. Another way is that we need to embrace our crown. We need to remember our power as women, embrace the crown that God has placed on our heads, and take our rightful place. The other way is that we need to stop um, crumbling and crushing our own self-esteem. We do that often by not pushing ourselves to have a better view of who we are and who we are in God. And finally, I would say how we return to a place of right standing and loving ourselves more is acceptance. It is one of the hardest things for us to do. But God said that we are fearfully and wonderfully made in his image. And we need to accept that from him, accept that love from him that might fuel our own self-love for ourselves. And so I just want to leave us all with, again, that charge. And I'm going to ask all of us to just put something in the chat right now as I end the meditation for this morning and think about what is one thing that you can do now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, but what is one thing that you can do right now to make the choice to love yourself more? Please put that in the chat, because whatever you put in the chat, it might inspire another woman to choose to love herself more. And so I thank you for the opportunity to share with you all this morning. I hope that you've been inspired by something that's been said. And I hope that we will all take our power back and realize that self-love is a path to so many other things. And that we remember that it is God who first loved us and that he's given us everything that we need to be able to love ourselves in the best. God bless all of you and thank you.